tell us about your experiences with race. When it comes to race, I don't know. I don't feel very included. Um, Not saying that there aren't problems with the Hispanic community and the Latino community, but you know you feel outed. You feel like an outcast because you don't know what to put when you're a Latin male or a Latin female or Latinx, because you're told to put white, even though you're not necessarily considered. You don't fall under what is considered white, not in this country. So then you have to put under ethnicity that you're Latino or you're Hispanic and things like that, and it's very difficult when you don't feel included. Now, when it comes to am I engaged in conversations about race, of course I am. Mostly I'm engaged in conversations with my family. They tend to be a bit more racially conservative, my parents. So I try to engage them in the conversations about the whole Black Lives Matter, about how things are just unfair for certain type of people, why there are inequalities, things like that. And I try to, instead of lecturing them, I just try to show them. I give them examples. I tell them why things are the way they are and what can be done to be better. I feel like I have an obligation as an educated man in my family to also educate those around me, instead of lecturing them and making myself seem as I'm better than them and thinking as I'm less than me. I want them to raise up to the same level that I am at. And that's why whenever it comes to about race, about when the Black Lives Matter movement was starting to come back up, that's when I took my time and explained to my father about all of the things that have happened to the Black community, to things, and not only to the Black community but also to the Hispanic community, what's happening all around us. And I've done my best to make sure that they're up to current events. When it comes to my friends, I don't necessarily talk about race to all of my friends. I just talk about it to just one friend, and the reason is because I want to understand her perspective more. Not saying that my other friends' perspectives isn't important. It's just that they don't tend, whenever I talk about a situation like this, they don't tend to take it as seriously as she does. And I'm able to understand much more about the Black community and much more about things that affect her and what it feels like to grow up in that type of environment, that type of race. What messages did I receive about race growing up from family, friends, and school? Honestly, when it comes from my family, I didn't really get much about the messages. There was a lot of microaggression there. One time a family member saw that a Black family was moving in, and then they were like, "Oh, your property value is gonna come down," and those are the type of messages that you end up getting if you're in the Hispanic Latino community, from family members here and there about other races. They all but as I said, I try to make sure that I give them an informative conversation about race and try to steer them wrong from having those microaggression sayings or those prejudice types of sayings. When it comes to what messages did I receive growing up about race with my friends? They ended up teaching me. They ended up teaching me more about their race. They ended up showing me the struggles that they've gone through, what the struggles of being in that race is, what it feels like, the expectations that are set upon you from school. Honestly, when it comes to school, you see things differently. You see how people of different races are treated differently. You know, if a black kid did something, they probably have the on-campus security come after him. But if a white kid does it, you know, it doesn't really happen. It's something that the school doesn't sponsor, but it does show. It's something in which how can I say it shows on how the teachers treat each student, which goes into the question, why do your teachers have different expectations from different students? Honestly, my teachers ended up having a lower expectations when it comes to minority students. They expected a higher level of education, higher level of discipline, of attitude from the whiter students. It's something that I've seen. Now, it may be because of their experience. They might have had a bad experience with a certain type of race, things like that. I'm not quite sure, but it is visible in the public school system. In what ways does a dominantly white culture impact your school and your classroom? Honestly, the white culture ends up whitewashing history. It ends up erasing sins, erasing things. Especially when it comes to Europeans coming down here and taking the land from the natives. You know, they say manifest destiny, manifest this, manifest destiny this, manifest destiny that, when in reality it was a targeted attack against a race, because apparently to them that race was uncivilized and they didn't deserve the land. But yet you won't hear that in any of the books because of how it is, how history is often written by the victors, and the victors tending to be white. When it comes to microaggression, how do you connect with this video? I guess I never really, it taught me about, it gave me flashbacks. Basically, it gave me flashbacks about things that I had gone through through my life, and it put a certain label on it. It made me realize that. Certain events that have happened in my life had a name to it. It wasn't racism, but it was just a bit of microaggression. What is microaggression, and what are some examples of it? It's a form of being offensive without wanting to be offensive. An example would be somebody going up to a Hispanic person and saying, "You're not Mexican," when that person is Cuban or is Argentinian, is Costa Rican. You know, it's a bit of microaggression, because yes, a vast amount of the Mexican people do live here in the United States, but not all of us. You know, and we tend to be a minority. We are always thought to be considered, oh, you're Mexican, things like that. And that's the type of microaggression that I've experienced. I've been told you basically count as Mexican when I told somebody that I'm Guatemalan, you know. Or one time when I was working with my father, this guy just came past us and just said dirty Mexican. I didn't respond. I didn't feel a need to, you know. Do you classify macroaggression as bullying or not? Context is needed. For me, I don't necessarily think it's bullying, but it's a form of ignorance on the person causing it. Usually when a microaggression event occurs to me, I tend to push them towards a more enlightened path instead of bashing them, instead of going after them. And I tend to be like, oh no, I'm Guatemalan. This is a country, you know, it's near Mexico, but it's considered Central American. things like that. You know, Wesley Williams raised research that shows students of color experience on average 291 microaggressions in 90-day periods. How might these microaggressions affect the student school experience? What can educators do, parents, administrators, community members? From what I've seen throughout my time in public school is that it ends up affecting a student's morality. It ends up affecting a student's willingness to continue learning, to continue pushing on for a better education. It brings them down. You know, when somebody says, "Oh, you're my smartest black student," you know, or things like that, it ends up like knocking them a couple pegs down, because why did they have to bring race into this? Why couldn't it just be like, you're my smartest student, or you're one of my top students? But no, it ends up bringing race when race isn't necessarily needed. And something that educators can do, and parents, administrators, is just teach history as history. Don't teach it from this whitewashed form of history. Teach it how it actually is. Teach it how it actually happened. Teach it from a neutral point of view. Teach it. Make those who committed atrocities, shed a light on those who've committed atrocities and things like that. Make the community more aware. You know, make the community more aware of different races, different ethnicities, different languages, things like that. I think that's something that's needed nowadays. In order to fight microaggression, in order to fight this division between races and ethnicities. Thank you.